6 students, so today I will teach you the third chapter of your English, that is after 20 years, and it is written by O. Henry. Okay, in this chapter basically we will come to know what O. Henry is trying to say, and this entire chapter is about two friends. One is Bob, another is Jimmy. Okay, Jimmy is a policeman in this chapter and Bob's profession is not being mentioned. Okay, but he is a wealthier person. He is a rich person. As we read the chapter, we come to know about that. But the chapter doesn't starts with this. Okay, basically we will come to know what's the chapter is about, because you see, as you read out the chapter, you will find little in a complex way, because from where has the chapter started, what does it mean, you will find little problem there. But as you read it with full concentration, you will find it very interesting. It is a very interesting chapter, incident between two friends. What had happened, you see, what have in it was once 10 o'clock, means 10 p.m. you can say, okay, night. So in New York, okay, what had happened, once a police officer, he was checking the doors, means the doors of the shops in the streets in New York. Okay, he was going from one door to the other door, checking the locks, that are the doors being properly locked or not. This was his duty. The officer's duty was this. He was just checking, and there were some people walking on the road. And because you see, if the doors are not being properly locked, so thieves might steal the shop. Okay, so the policeman was checking from door to door. Suddenly, when he went to a hardware store to check that is the door being locked or not, he saw that a fine man was standing there. Okay, so the policeman asked that man, who were you and why are you here? Okay, so the man, he said, means he replied to the policeman that he was waiting for one of his friend to whom he has promised to meet after 20 years. Okay, so after listening to this, the policeman asked him, so will your friend come here or not? So the man replied, most probably, if he is alive, my friend would definitely come and meet me here tonight. Okay, so after 20 years the man was waiting, and they made such a hard promise, and his friend also, he didn't forget that promise. But how does he didn't forget, we will come to know. You see, what had happened, as the policeman asked the man that whom you are waiting for, and he replied that I was waiting for one of my friend. Then what had happened, the policeman saw that he was holding an unlit cigar in his in his mouth. Unlit cigar means a cigarette, and he was holding in his mouth, and it was not burning. So when the policeman was talking, in the meantime, the man decided, he thought of lighting up this cigar. And when he lit up the cigar, the flash that came out of the cigar when it was burning, the policeman could definitely see his face, that how does he look like, because it was almost 10 o'clock, it was almost dark there. His face was also not visible properly. So when he saw his face, the policeman saw that the person had a pale face, and also his face was in square and jaw shaped with keen eyes. His eyes were very keen. Okay, and he had a scarf on his neck, and on the scarf there was a big diamond, and which indicated that the person to whom the policeman was talking was very rich. Okay, because basically rich person, they hold this diamond in anywhere in your body, in your ears. Okay, basically we normal people, we not wear these diamonds and all. Yes, if you're capitalist, if you have much capital, yes, you can definitely buy. Okay, so when he saw the face of the man, he could the police officer, he could definitely recognize. Okay, so now you see, the name of the police officer was Jimmy. Okay, and the person to whom he was talking was Bob. Both of them were friends, but none of them were aware, because they had met after 20 years. Right? So what happened? The man says the policeman, and he explains the situation to the policeman, that he was waiting for one of his best friend. His name was Jimmy, and both of them, they raised in New York, and they were just like brothers. But when Jimmy had grown up, Jimmy remained in the New York City itself, but Bob, he went to the west of the New York City to study there, or for his best fortune, you can say, for his best fortune, he went to the west side of the city. But Bob was in New York itself. Upon taking the leave, means what had happened, when the policeman had talked, the police officer, he talked with Bob, he thought of leaving, but still the police officer was not yet aware of his name. Oh, sorry. So the man was not aware of the police officer's name. The police officer was aware of the person's name whom he was talking, and he was Bob. And the police officer, he definitely knew that this was his friend. Okay, what had happened when they were talking, and the policeman thought of leaving that place. Uh, he said that, okay, hope so your friend comes and you meet your friend. But the awaiting man is confirmed and confident to the policeman that he will definitely come to that night, because if he is alive, that he will definitely come under what circumstances it may be. The policeman left the spot and continued on his way, and he was again checking door to door. And there was rain falling in the streets, and rain was falling, not heavy rain but a very gentle rain was falling. Within a short time, what had happened? A tall character means a tall heighted man, was coming from far distance. Bob, who was standing in the door, could see a tall featured man coming with his collars up. Okay, his collars were up, and he was inquiring to that person, Bob, is that you, Bob? So what had happened? The waiting man, he again replied. He got very anxiety because none of the city, none of them, they knew his name. He knew the tall man who came. Maybe he was definitely Jimmy, who was his friend whom he was describing till yet. So he asked, are you Jimmy? So the policeman, what had happened? As he asked, the policeman who came, who went, and the person who came as the collar turned up and he was a tall star, he himself was a policeman. So what had happened? When he asked that you are Bob and he replied, are you Jimmy? The policeman didn't say anything. He just handed over a sheet of paper in Bob's hand. What had happened after that, you see? We will come to know. The man from the west means Bob. He opened up the letter that the policeman handed up to Bob. Means not Jimmy, but that policeman. When he read the letter, he got a little terrified. He got a little tensed. I mean, he was feeling a little bit of tension. So his hands were trembling as he was opening the letter. And as he began to read, it was mentioned as Bob, and the letter was written by Jimmy. Okay, and it was mentioned as Bob that I was at that place on time when you struck the match of your light cigar. Means it is on the letter it was written that when the earlier policeman, when he was talking to Bob, he couldn't see Bob's face properly. He also remembered that he has to meet someone after 20 years, and that was his friend. And Bob also, he knows that Jimmy will definitely come, and Jimmy came. Jimmy was the policeman itself. Okay, but Jimmy, when Bob lighted up the cigar, the flash that came out of the cigar, and it fall on his face. The face, when Jimmy saw, he saw that this was the criminal that the Chicago cops were finding to arrest. Okay, so basically in this chapter we come to know that this person Bob is a criminal. Okay, and Jimmy, being his friend, he couldn't arrest at that spot to Bob. So what had happened? Jimmy could see that this is a criminal, so he went on that area. He went from that area and he told one of his friend, means one of his officer, to come and arrest him, because it was very harsh moment for one friend to arrest another friend, because they were very close friends, and Bob didn't do any sort of theft with Jimmy. But even though Jimmy was on duty, okay, so he has to do his duty, either it is his friend or not. Okay, so Jimmy couldn't recognize Bob at that moment properly, but when the cigar was lighted, then he could recognize Bob, and he could have himself introduce himself, but he didn't. Okay, so what happened? He went from that area and he forwarded this letter to one of his officer, and the officer came and he told Bob about this, and he was arrested. So this is all about the lesson. Okay, so as he was arrested, nothing to more go, means there's nothing to more. So I went and got another cop and asked him to do his duty. So what had happened? Bob, he told the officer, okay, you may carry on your duty. But Bob, basically he came to know that he had met Jimmy. He had met Jimmy, but not for a long time, maybe for a short time. But Jimmy wasn't there. It was another policeman who arrested him. Jimmy has mentioned in the letter that it was very harsh for him to arrest his friend. So he forwarded another officer to arrest him. This is all about the lesson after 20 years. Thank you.